Oh, stop acting light skin.
Welcome everyone to the am I allowed to say this? Sure? Okay. The Light Skinned Opinion Podcast with your host, author, and culture commentator Chris Maddox, blogger and overall asshole Alf954. And there's no way I'm saying this. It's offensive. Sure this is okay? Fine. And our dark-skinned producer, Parrish Thompson. What do we have today, boys? I mean, guys, not boys, because... Oh, fuck it.
Yep. Yo. One time in the place to be. It's like... One time in the place to be is like...
You know your mic has been unmuted that whole time, right?
I did not know.
I mean, it says it right at the top. It says you've been unmuted. I thought you were about to bust in. I wasn't even going to stop you.
Usually they don't like when I rap, so they be cutting me off. So
no, we like it because we like to make fun of it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I don't know why you would, though.
Live, I was waiting for it to go all the way through and then replay.
I unmuted you, because you know you like to get into it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, speaking of getting into it, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Light Skin Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Maddox, and across from me digitally, we got two good friends. First, we got at Alf954. Alf, say what's up to the people, bro.
Sac passe.
Nabule. And then we have our other friend, a longtime friend of the show, our Light Chick Opinion co-host. I had to get my microphone situation together. Amanda Fox. Amanda, what's going on, dear?
Hey. Nothing really.
All right.
Soon having to go back in the office. Damn you, DeSantis. That's really
yeah, all that's done. I mean, we could talk about that at some point in the show because
I was trying a lot of my job today. I'm not getting vaccinated, but then that second Moderna shot kicked my ass, and I had to tell them I ain't working today. Shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you'll be back in there too, huh? You think they're gonna let y'all? They want y'all to come back?
Now the funny thing is, I don't even have an office no more. Like they literally are the people that had to stay at the office took my office over. I ain't got nowhere to work, so I'm just like my boss and I are like, well, we ain't got nowhere to work, so we just gonna. I do sales. I don't need to be in that motherfucker. So.
Yeah, straight. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
I just posted it in the chat. I just want to remind people, please hit, if you're watching the replay right now on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We be getting more views and subscribers. If you're watching this, subscribe. It's free with your cheap ass. Shit. But thank you for watching. Thank you.
Let me get my intro in. My goodness.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, all over the world, thank y'all for joining us. We have an interesting show for y'all tonight, and we're going to get right into it. If you saw any of our lightly done promo this week, our promo picture was Dr. Umar, who was on Breakfast Club earlier this week, and a man who's been in the news a lot recently, Kevin Samuels. There we go. You see him. Go back. Are
you going to do a word of the day?
Yeah. I'm going to get to it.
Okay, my bad.
Go ahead. Put the picture back up again. Because I saw this earlier when you sent me this. If you look closely in Kevin Samuels' lens, you see how you can see like the selfie hand?
Yeah.
Doesn't that automatically knock like 8 points off any picture you take if I can see that you're taking it of yourself? Does that?
No.
Am I the only person who feels
You're
like
the only
that,
person because we didn't live in like the new millennium, right? Like everybody takes selfies all day long.
But what happens when you
is it just are you saying
you can see it like
are you saying that it's the selfie quality or the fact that he's taking a selfie at all?
The fact that it's a selfie, I think, because the quality is not bad, but
because I'm impressed because I can't take
that it's like a real photo. You know,
I can't take a selfie to save my life. If you just scroll through my Instagram page and it's a fucking mess.
Stop it, Mandy. How many times we look at this man page, especially when he get a new haircut?
Oh, that's someone else taking the picture.
He doing his
new haircut day. It'd be like.
That's Salim. Shout out Salim the barber. Salim get that shit for for the chart.
He doing his
talking about. Let me get the number 15. That's me.
He doing his best light skinned Haitian guy little photo pose. Best one.
But I'm talking about the selfies. I'm terrible at selfies, so I give him pride. That's a decent selfie in my opinion. I be taking the ones that Dr. Umar be taking, like that shit. That's the ones I look like. Right? Myself, don't it look? I'm mad for no reason. In the best mood in the world. But anyway.
So these two guys are in the news now because there's a little bit of beef going on here. We all know who they are. If you don't, brief rundown. Dr. Umar is the supposed child psychologist who some say is a scammer because he was raising money for a school that has not seen built. He's got a lot of opinions on Pan-Africanism and on just what Black folks should be doing, right? Then we have Kevin Samuels, who is making a name for himself by being the guy who going to tell the women mainly, or the people, I guess, what's wrong with you. You know how in your family, you always got that one uncle or aunt or somebody who has no problem. Whoa, boy, you done picked up a couple pounds there, huh? You're like, oh, hello, thanks.
Or if you're Caribbean, everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say the Caribbean issue, your entire family. Yeah.
Right. And so he's taken that, he's cranked it up, and he's made himself into a celebrity. And so these two guys are beefing because Dr. Umar is accusing Kevin Samuels, from what I understand, of bashing Black women, but not just bashing Black women, bashing Black women based on European standards of beauty. You know, back to the back to the Pan-African situation. So here's the tweet what he posted on Instagram. My mouth. There's a growing beta male Youtubian community that is creating a sector dedicated to slandering and criticizing Black women who don't emulate Eurocentric standards of beauty and success. Unfortunately, many sisters have become prey for these coons. Ooh, what a hard fighting word, coons. Dang.
That's one of his key words, so he uses it often.
He does, but please don't never call me no coon, because we're going to have to scrap a little bit. Due to an unconscious need for male validation, Black women, you don't need a man to validate your worth.
I think you slid over the funniest word in that moment.
I was about to go back.
That Youtubian. God damn. That shit was, to me, I was like, damn, that's rough. You know what I mean? You just live in the land of someone in the chat said, not just a Youtubian, a beta male Youtubian. A beta male Youtubian. Like, that
boy created a whole phylocene categorization system.
And it's kind of funny because he's like an Instagramian. Like
he's like somehow that's much higher than a Youtubian. Don't get confused.
Exactly. It's like your whole fame is built around the same kind of social media bullshit. But anyway, let's get back to the comments.
Go ahead. You got some comments for us? Called him a Youtubian, someone from the land of YouTube. Here's the thing with this one. I'm usually not ever going to defend Dr. Umar just because he seems like a shiesty character to me.
Charlatan.
A charlatan is a great word. A snake oil salesman. But in this instance, I don't necessarily agree with him that this is what Buddy is doing, but I understand the point he's trying to make. Because Kevin Samuels has made his name as a quote unquote image consultant, telling you what's wrong with you. And a lot of times what he does appear to tell Black women in particular that you are not meeting a particular standard. Now, whether that standard is Eurocentric or whatever is debatable, but I think I understand what he's saying.
No, I mean, I will say this. He throws out numbers a lot. And I think that's where Dr. Umar is basing that piece on, right? Because when you come in and you're like, you're a 6, I would call you a 4. That piece of that criteria that he goes is very Eurocentric, right? It's very American based. This is what mass media is considering a standard of beauty. And so from that standpoint, I don't think that he's wrong, Dr. Umar, in saying that Kevin does that, because he does. He's big on throwing out numbers, and he's big on asking you, well, what you think you are.
And it's also, he uses height a lot. For men and women, he talks about height. Weight. He talks about weight. So my thing, a lot of things that with both of these guys, they both make some good points, but then they take the shit too far. You know what I mean? It's like, you were talking about this a little bit before the show, Chris. It's like this hot take thing that people have to do. Mm-hmm. It's like they have to just go. Kevin Samuels, the more outlandish and more disrespectful he is, the more views he gets. So he's basically a caricature of himself at this point. So
This
like
is why
he may have a good point. You know, he's talking to a dude. You're 5'8", 270 pounds. You make $35,000 a year. You know, don't be saying you want a dime piece who can cook, lady in the streets and a freak in the bed. Like, you want all these things, but you ain't bringing shit to the table. So at that point, I do understand him, because our priorities and some of our standards are out of whack. But at the same time, like, it's not because the dude's 5'8" and 270. You don't have to, it don't have to be a physical, superficial appearance deal.
But if you think about it, and this is what the age we live in, why that Youtubian thing is funny, but it's also very like true, right? Is like, what is Kevin Samuels' actual credibility? Other than he gets a lot of people to follow him on social media because he's talking that trash. We looked it up. He's an image consultant, but I don't know any famous Kevin Samuels clients, or I've never seen anybody vouch for him or justify or say, hey, look, I had to get ready for the Oscars. I called this man here and he got me together. Like, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, if anybody in the chat is up on Kevin Samuels' life like that, that his whole credibility is based on the fact that he talking wild to people, because talking wild builds the following, which in this weird social media world or Youtubian world then builds the credibility.
The more outrageous. So I got an example of him just being a straight ass.
Hi,
I'm I don't know what your topic is tonight, but I guess.
How old are you?
Guess.
Don't play with me. Guess these nuts.
So wait a minute, like,
everything about that was weird. But
right?
I feel like him and Umar both, right? They're both very outlandish, because it's like, it's the world of reality TV, but offline, right? It's so social media, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, it's the evolution of reality TV. And reality TV is built on that spark. It started with, hey, let's just follow people being regular. And then it went from following people being regular to, production may not trick people into doing things, but they're going to set up these extreme situations so people are in a pressure cooker. To whether production sets up a extreme situation or not, you're casting people who want to be famous, so they are creating their own drama. So now I'm going to start a fight. I'm going to start talking about people behind their back. I'm going to be the person who sleeps with everybody. I'm going to be the biggest whatever. So now if you're trying to create your own base and you're not on a reality TV, you've created your own reality TV on Instagram, on YouTube, on all of these things. So it's the same model. So
by that logic, it's like,
are they even fighting?
Because I was going to ask, like, who are these people? Whenever I look at it, the people who join his lives. First of all, his production value or quality is so pooty. Every time I see one of his videos, I'm like, this is this guy with a phone who's often in the dark.
I don't even understand, what is the platform? Is it just IG Live, and then people jump on IG Live to get slandered? Like, what are you doing?
But if you think about it, if you get slandered, it's like anything else, right? Whether you're getting 500 views because you're getting likes, or you're 500 views because you're hated. A view is a view, right? It's that same mentality in the wrestling world, right? Wrestling is another good example of famous fame. So The Rock was supposed to be a really huge wrestler and be a great guy, but no one bought The Rock as the hero. So they made him the villain. And so he went from being almost unknown to being one of the top, one of the most well-known wrestlers as a villain. So was it like, oh, I can keep being the good guy? So it doesn't matter. The key is, the more people who are viewing me, whether you love me or hate me, you're watching me.
But now,
whether you think I'm great. And so when people are calling in, though, if I'm a woman and I'm calling in and I'm single, I might not care. I'm like, okay, Kevin Samuels is talking mad junk, but everyone believes he's going to talk junk. And everyone knows he calls, a 10 a 6. Well, now I'm going to get on and I might have exposure to 15 other people. It's like going on The Bachelor and being thrown out the first day and them talking
it's
crap
like what
about
you were
you.
saying earlier with the
Still got a
reality
view.
TV show people. Like the people who call in to go live with him are the people who are like, yo, I got to make a name for myself on this reality show where you're describing. I think they do go on there knowing full well like that he's going to roast them, and then I'll get roasted.
But what is this attraction? And this is one of the things I could actually play. I could play the video that Dr. Umar is talking about. The attraction to getting humiliated publicly. Like,
I don't know if it's an attraction of getting humiliated, but you can get on, right? So it's a lot hard.
Get on what? Like, you know what I mean?
So I get in a place where now I have, I don't know, 1,000 more people followed me. So now these 1,000 people have now gone to, let's say 1,000 people saw me. Of that 1,000 people, I don't know, let's say 500, half of them went to my Instagram page because they were curious about what I look like for real and want to see my other pictures and see if what he was saying is right or if what I was right. Now, out of those 500 people, another 200 decided to follow me. I didn't have to do anything today but call into this man's show, listen to him talk to me for 30 seconds, even though everyone knows he's an idiot, and I got 200 followers. Guess what? Someone is going to charge me how much money on Instagram to get 200 followers. I got 200 followers.
That's what I'm saying. What a lot of times what I don't understand is like I have 4,000 something followers on Twitter. But I found a way to monetize that shit. Like, if you're not monetizing, who gives a shit? Like,
they might monetize it, or that 200 followers, the man that they're looking for might be in that mix. Maybe they just want someone to blow up in their DM.
Yeah, I didn't think about it like that.
I don't need Kevin Samuels to be the man that likes me. I need someone watching his show to realize that I make X amount of money, I have this look and figure, and this is what I have going for me. Kevin don't need to like me. One of them 1,000 people may.
I guess that's that's a weird calculation.
Somebody simping running up in the DMs. Like,
I know, right?
I think you're beautiful, baby. You know, and but you know what it is. Amanda's like, that shit.
Why not? You might find your husband in that, or you might get more people who are following you. More followers may mean more likes. More likes now mean you have people who are letting you be an ambassador of their, tennis shoes or their headband.
Well, I got more from Dr. Umar on exactly what his problem with the whole Kevin Samuels thing and what, black women seeking acceptance from certain black men.
Black women, I count about a dozen. I'm gonna call them the dirty dozen of division. The triple D, the dirty dozen of division. There's about 12 members of the dirty dozen of division, 12 beta males, YouTube life coaches, who are trying to build a platform by making black women feel bad. I don't like it. I can't appreciate black men trying to make a dollar off of making black women feel bad. And unfortunately, our black women, some of them are so thirsty for validation that they're participating in the attacks and slander against the black female community, and that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. No black woman should ever subject herself, even for amusement. Even for amusement.
See, and then he just starts going too far with it.
Because people were agreeing. I was reading the comments. It was answering them, and then he's about to go off.
That's the whole thing. That's like it's honestly, go back to wrestling. You know what that was? That was Hulk Hogan with his ear to the fucking crowd. You know what I'm saying? Easy stance. Hey, black women don't be respected. Oh shit, he preaching. Of course.
He's not wrong in what he is saying in that clip.
Neither of them are wrong, but
they're not wrong. But a lot of it does have to do with the quality of the messenger, because both of these guys are messengers who
messy ass messengers.
Yes,
but I think is it the quality, or I think that they're missing gaps. It's not. They're both very shallow in their messages, in my opinion. Right.
Very
so
shallow.
If you take the example of
using deep words.
Right, but if you take the example of, you're 5'7" or you're 5, 5'7" and you're chunky and you're this or that, and you want somebody who's together, you don't meet that standard. It's like, do you have the same thing in common as this person? Clearly, this person who is running around all day cares about health and fitness. They care about opinion. So these 5 things are important to them. If this is not important to you, you guys may not be equally yoked. You might not have the same likes and desires. So if you want someone who has these types of qualities, you should exude similar qualities, right?
That is a reasonable stance. Right. But what he takes it to a whole different level. Like,
right.
Based like you ain't shit, you sorry. Yeah.
Because that reasonable stance is not going to get you more views than Ayanna Van Zandt. Somebody put in the comment section that he has almost a daily YouTube show, apparently.
Yeah.
So if it's daily, that means it's probably daytime television and would be competing against, all of that stuff. He's not pulling nobody away from their desk at work unless he's, girl, you see how he.
Well, you don't have to pull anyone away from desk, right? One. A lot of people work from home too. It's on YouTube. You can rewatch it anytime during the day. So people watch it because you want to talk about it. You're talking. It's junk. Who wouldn't want to watch it? It's junk TV, right? So it's junk TV on your computer. Just like I watch The Real Housewives because it's ridiculous.
and it's all about getting a viral clip. So like this is one of the things that went viral.
That's why I question. I don't know if either one of them actually has an issue with the other person. I think that they're using the other person's platform. Like Dr. Umar's like, wait, why is everyone talking about Kevin? Didn't they just hear I was on the Breakfast Club this week? How come my Breakfast Club went and disappeared mad quick?
Well, here's where
Who you talking about? I don't like him.
Here's where part of the beef started, and because he's outlandish, got a viral little video out of it.
Right? You mean Dr. Umar Johnson? The man who has 2 children by 2 different women that he never married. Dr. Umar Johnson, the guy that for the last 10 years has not built brick one of a school he's collected money from. Dr. Umar, hold on, ma'am. Dr. Umar Johnson, the man who calls you queen, mother, goddess, and all this other kind of stuff. And again, for those who are keeping score, this is another woman who comes on and says, talk to us more like Umar. The Prince of Pan-African, Big Papa's in the house. Run my donations. I mean, shout out to Umar. I ain't got no problem with the dude, but I think it's funny y'all keep coming over here asking everybody to talk like Umar.
Apparently, you got mad issues.
Well, that's why I don't think the beef is fake. I don't think the beef is because they're both cutting into each other's
into each other's audience pie.
Exactly.
Okay, I think it's 100% the MTV Hills frenemies, and 10 years later they all came out and said all of our beefs were fake. We did it for reality TV.
Dr. Umar got a lot of enemies though. Dr. Umar got a lot of people. I did it for the gram. And as I do it for the gram, I get more stuff. Dr. Umar got a lot of people who can't stand him though.
I'm sure, but that doesn't mean that these two still might not be somewhere, taking shots one day.
But does that make them any better than these people that go on Fox News and repeat talking points, QAnon bullshit, shit they don't believe in? Like you had Tucker Carlson the other day reading off of a list of all the people that have died from the vaccine. There are people that died after getting the vaccine. Like they were 95 years old, got the vaccine and died because they was finna die anyway. Like there were people that had gotten into car accidents after getting the vaccine. He was naming, he named someone I think who got struck by lightning. Like this, you don't know
what kind of electrons that vaccine has left in your arm right now. You walk down the street and now it
got that 5G chip.
This would be a perfect time. Alf, let's go ahead and do you have the video queued up already for word of the day?
Yeah.
Let's.
Now it's time for Chris to show his intellectual superiority. Chris, what is our SAT word for the day?
Our SAT word for today, we're going to go with myopic, right? And so what myopic means, uncreative, unintelligent, very nearsighted. And both Dr. Umar and Kevin Samuels, I think, are kind of myopic in just that they're looking at the people who they're talking to a lot of the times and those people only. And I saw something similar last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about. Tim Scott gave his response, the Republican response to Joe Biden's first address joint address to Congress. And, you know, he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when he made this bold declaration, you know, America is not a racist country. And my biggest issue with what I saw from Tim Scott was he talked a lot about his own personal story. That's where our little transition from myopic. Talked a lot about his situation and his people and what he has experienced, which is all good. But then he did not, though, see the larger picture. And so, in a way, maybe this is a trend that's happening just across the culture. It's like there is so much available. Now, maybe sometimes we hone into just only our experience the most at the expense of others. Kamala Harris now, in response to that, and I felt like she was playing a little politics here. Her response was, America is not a racist country. I feel like she kind of had to say that as a politician. Maybe you didn't. That's debatable. But then she says, but we still have to talk about its racist past. Kind of this kind of allusion to racism being over. So I wanted to think from you all, Tim Scott. Let's get a light skin opinion on that. Do we really, does Tim Scott get a pass, but do we kind of just shrug Tim Scott off in the sense like, this nigga ain't got nothing to say? Like, you know, I wonder who his constituency is beyond, you know, does he have a black constituency? Because listening to him talk, I was like, sir, I'm not understanding anything that you're saying. You talk about being the son of a single mother who struggled, but then you're voting against programs that would help single mothers who struggle. And then, oh, but this man at Chick-fil-A gave me a chance. I got an opportunity, blah, blah, blah. But then you're actively voting against people having an opportunity to express themselves in a democracy. The contradictions were so obvious.
We talk about them all the time, Chris. We talk about the special Negroes. Like, you know, they think they think they're different than the rest, or they look at everybody else and say, why can't you do what I did? And that's a big thing. And so he does have a constituency of black men out there, especially black men. There are a lot of black men that will sit there, don't even have shit, be like, like have nothing. But you know, they got their little piece of, you know, they piece of the world carved out, and they're sitting there like, well, why can't you do what I did? I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. Black people be doing that bootstrap shit themselves. So he does have a constituency. Like, there's a whole bunch of coons out there running around talking about, well, why can't you do what I did? You know, and I can't stand that shit. Like, they will say, I did this. But then you go back and they pass, you got Pell Grants, didn't you? You got scholarships, didn't you? You got financial aid, didn't you? Somebody.
Oh, you Candace Owens and you suing the school with the NAACP.
Right. And then coming back years later, like,
why can't you do what I did? You know, but there is a constituency for that, even in the black community. And there's a bigger constituency of white people looking at this black man saying this and saying, look, what's wrong with the rest of you? Why can't you be more like Tim Scott?
My thing. Go ahead, Amanda.
Well, this is what I'm saying. The idea of thinking that they don't have the constituency is the same thought process that he's having, right? Like we're looking at it from our worldview. Like, how in the world can anyone believe these words who are black, right? But whatever his life experiences have been, they've been one that have instilled this in his mind. So if you take the concept of being the special Negro, then you've been taught that the reason why you're here is because you're special. And you've been taught that in your classes, in your schools, in life. There have been people who've been telling you, you're here because you're special, and look at all of those other people. And then have continually coached people into believing that they are different, right? Like they did special, incredible things that made them special, incredible people above anyone else. And so until you can kind of put your feet into their shoes, then you can't have a conversation with them to say, but did you really? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And the problem is that they're in such a big platform that they continue to surround themselves. It's like anyone else. You surround yourself with people.
It's an echo chamber.
It's an echo chamber.
Right. Who are going to tell you what you want to hear.
That I think is, it dismays me a little bit that as the Republican Party, you would choose Tim Scott to deliver this rebuttal, with the concept being, like you all are saying, he's got enough of a constituency that maybe we can add to. Like, they had to see it as a political benefit. And I'm wondering, I'm like, how blind do you have to be to consider Tim Scott in what he said as being able to draw black people into the party here?
Why do you think that they need to draw more black people into the party? They're doing a lot. I don't know if that was their desire. I think that their desire.
Tim Scott up? Tim Scott is a man
as a special Negro to prove to their constituency that black people are complaining about nothing. There's no such thing as systemic racism, because look at Tim Scott. They do it all the time.
Right.
Lindsey Graham the other day said that there's no such thing as systemic racism because we elected Obama and Kamala Harris as vice president. Like, this is they hold these special Negroes up for the world to see. The Ben Carsons, the Herman Cains, they try to do it to Martin Luther King in postmortem. Like, they hold them up and say, how can you say we're racist? Look at this. Look at Barack Obama.
So the both
we let that nigga in the White House. What more do you want?
Here's what I hear both of y'all saying, though, is that, and I was worried about this when Trump won, because Trump won with very little black support, and it proved that it is still possible to win without getting enough black people on your side here. But I hear you also saying that the Republican Party is not going to make any inroads any further, even though Trump had more African Americans and minority people vote for him, despite all his craziness, than any other Republican in a long time.
Because he does. There's a piece of this toxic masculinity that does appeal to certain sectors of black culture, and
probably also the same people who like Kevin Samuels and a little bit of
exactly because somehow they have these guys like Kevin Samuels, who, I mean, doesn't look that masculine to me, or Trump, who is not is not the peak of, like, you know, alpha male masculinity. Somehow these guys have convinced people that they are the pictures of masculinity. So you will either have black men who want to be that or aspire to that will follow behind that, and that thread runs through the black community. And there's also a part of what Trump preached that appeals to a very conservative black audience.
So then why divest from that? That's why I say I think.
But I don't think that Tim Scott divests from that. I think all they're doing is holding their ground. They're just not
I don't
trying
think he
to.
does either. But I mean, why?
I don't think that they're trying to. I don't think it is away from the game plan. I think it's 100% in line with the game plan. The game plan before was, hey, America is like, these are the things that we need to do. Let's make America great again. And he always had his one or two people that he always paraded, like, see, these black people think I'm great. You should think I'm great too.
Those Diamond and Dallas, whatever those two black women were.
So I'm not a racist person. So now you have, their new mantra was this whole concept of America being split and racism being great. That's not true. None of that happened under Trump. Trump didn't have any of these things, and Republicans aren't like that at all. And what they're preaching isn't like that at this point. So they put the black man up to continue that same mantra. They haven't deviated. They're actually going in line, and this is the next evolution of it. It's saying, well, we're not going to pick Candace Owens because she's just, a black Tommy.
He's too much
Lorraine.
of a caricature. Like,
she doesn't have any real clout there, right? She's just a Youtubian.
What exactly? What I think the miscalculation they're making is that they no longer have any interest in expanding their base. They've lost interest in expanding the base, right? They decided we are going to ride this Trump train, even though the last two election cycles, the Trump train has yielded massive losses.
Way more than I heard. I was listening to NPR the other day. Since Trump won in 2016, they lost the 2018 midterms, lost the 2020 election, then lost the Georgia. Well, then lost the 2 seats in Georgia, then lost the 20. Then blah blah blah. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make.
I say there wasn't no other elections.
No, that's it. But he lost every.
They lost the insurrection.
Lost every election that he presided over, or every election with him as.
And he lost both popular votes by 10 million. But they decided that they are going to ride this thing out, and because they see I don't know if it's sometimes, you know, when you go too far, you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube.
Yeah.
And now you've incited this 35% of this country. You've excited them, and if you lose them, you know, that's your base is only 40% of the country.
But I'm gonna show you what else from that January 6th thing. Not only do you lose that portion of your base, if you lose that 35%, that 35% isn't going back into the militia hills of Montana. They're not necessarily going to go back underneath the underground where they were for a long period of time. They're out now. The Boogaloo Boys, the Proud Boys, and all of these various other splinter groups and militia groups. That's the toothpaste that's not going back in the tube. And now that they've awoken those people and aroused their political sensibilities, now they're going to have to manage them crazy crackers some type of way. I don't even think that they got out there like that to embarrass.
But I don't think that they need to manage them, and I think like the comment that just went in there, that's exactly what I was.
They ran up on the Capitol.
And what happened? So they ran up on the Capitol, and then what happened?
They went back to the hills of Montana.
Right. Nothing happened other than they kept it in words, right? And so it's literally the same thing, right? They're not trying to gain their pieces. They're doing what they know that will work for them, right? They're taking that NRA model of, as long as I have this number of people and everyone votes my way, then we're going to be able to sway this. And now too many of the other people came out. And so that's exactly where I was going to go, is right where that comment is, yeah, we're going to start going back to voter suppression. So how do I create these laws, and how do I continue to exclude all of these new people who came in? So we had enough laws to keep these voters out. Then they learned the system, so they worked the system and got them in. Now we're going to rework the system. So we're reworking systems in states that came out and said, oh, there were no issues here. There was nothing. They were 100% Republican run. We still need to change the rules here because we lost. So let's continue to change the rules because that's not how it's supposed to work. They don't need a new base.
A little bit of a news report, as old news by the time some people will see this. Today, Governor DeSantis signed our very own version of these voter suppression bills here in Florida. Republicans,
and they might not hold up in court, but the impact is already felt.
And this is a state that is dominated by Republicans. States,
and they don't trust
all the way down to the municipalities.
They don't trust the laws they already put in place, because once we started to take advantage of their laws, their absentee voting system, they want to change it because, oh no, the niggas done found out about the shit. So
but it may be myopic, because I was reading today as well that they're thinking this could possibly backfire, because it's
going to the same way it backfired in Georgia.
A lot of the elderly, but just in the sense that they may also be making it harder for elderly white people who live in like those assisted living facilities in those communities. It's also making it harder for those people to vote, who are some of their most reliable supporters.
And they killed off a lot of their constituency through COVID, because they lied to these people and told them it didn't exist. But that's the whole.
That was an ice cold way to go about that. They killed off a whole lot of people.
They killed their constituency. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, but when you were talking about why are they doing this, like I said, it's 35% of the country that they've released the crazy. Now they do have to manage that crazy, but the only way to manage that crazy is to keep the crazy going, to keep the lie going that Trump really won the election. So that's already 90% of your entire constituency, right? Because you only have 40% of the country. How do you win an election with only 40% of the country? Also, while 5%. Like there's 10% of your own constituency that thinks you're a little crazy, that are on the borderline leading to, they about to go independent. What do? Like the comment said, you suppress votes. So you can win with 40% if you just make sure that enough of the rest of the 60% can't vote. And that is their whole strategy right now. They don't even have a platform. They have no policy.
A single policy platform.
Now they back to small government and stop and the deficit's too high. Like they don't know which way they're going. All they have now is xenophobia, racism, culture wars, cancel culture, bunch of buzzwords, nonsense, and voter suppression. That is the entirety of the Republican Party, and it still might fucking work, which is the same.
Right. And I think that what they tried, I don't even say try. One thing that they're very, very good at is they don't have to win every single election, right? So they take full advantage when they're in charge, and then they realize that they can create enough of the stir when they're not in charge to prevent the changes that they don't want. Yep. So basically, you had Trump, and then during your Trump time, how many new Supreme Court justices did they get through, right?
And circuit court judges and appeals court judges.
So now you've changed the judicial system, and then we might not have won, you know, and I say we, but they might not have won every single election that they wanted to have the House and the Senate and these things, but they still have their government in place that they're now creating these laws.
All these state governments are full of Republican legislatures.
So now they're creating these laws so that, oh, how can they win the next time? And then if they do, well, we just followed the law. We're just following the rules. What are you trying to say? Who stole the election? See, you guys are, it's always a Democratic thing. You got the liberals are always doing this. So then they can flip the script for what they do. And I don't want to just say the Republicans do it. Both sides do it, where they go, it's like when someone's cheating on the test and they want to distract, and they go, oh my gosh, is he cheating over there? So if you're looking at the other person cheating on the test, you're not going to notice
kid ever.
That I plagiarized.
Is he cheating over there?
But that's what people do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's that same kind of concept where they distract you and say the other side is doing exactly what they're doing. And they're both doing the same thing. It's just the Republicans are much better at it. And they're much better at it because, unfortunately, they lead with hate. And when I say that invokes such a strong reaction. And hate is probably even the wrong word, because I don't think that they lead with hate. I think they lead with fear. And fear is really what is such a strong reaction. They lead with this fear. And when you do that, you know, people feel like they're surviving. So they're like, I'm willing to do whatever I can just to survive.
They will vote against their own interests because they're afraid. Like,
the thing that has me most worried,
it's like they're trying to give you something, but if you get it, then all these other people are going to get it too. Like, they'll sit there and they'll say, the Democrats will say, we want to give you universal health care. Then the Republicans will say, well, the Mexicans going to get it too. And then, oh, no, I'm not paying for that. But you're paying for it already. These assholes don't understand. You are paying for it already.
No.
Right? Through premiums, through taxes.
But they're not. Now what they're going to do is, you're not getting universal health care. Only the Mexicans are getting it. And the reason why they're getting it is because you're paying for it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're paying. And they're not even just Mexicans. Now it's anyone who's coming over this border. You know, all of these people who are coming across this border, you're just paying for them. Like,
those are the fights and the arguments with Republicans that I think I'm used to. The one that is scaring me right now the most is this effort to kind of rewrite the history of the country. Like, in addition to these voter suppression bills, there's a lot of stuff going on about trying to change the way slavery is taught. And that started as Trump was going out the door when they stopped the 1614 project, or whatever the name of the project is, that was teaching slavery and all that. 1619. And then now you also see, just watched another clip of a guy in Tennessee who's like, they're trying to recast slavery as a means of reshaping the current brand of the country. And as another point or another premise in their argument that, oh, this isn't a racist country. And so they're literally going back and trying to whitewash the history of it. And every time I see that, that's what I'm more concerned about than the fights over immigration, than the fights over the deficit, is that there might possibly be, even if they can just say it loud enough and repeat it enough, a portion of the country who starts to actually believe this revisionist history.
I mean, a portion, it's already happening.
It is, but there's more people joining that, and it's moving more into the mainstream.
There was a congressman or a state legislator, I think of South Carolina or North Carolina, who was arguing about teaching Black history and teaching slavery, that the 3/5 compromise was actually a way to limit Southern power. Mm-hmm. And like it wasn't about racism. It wasn't about dehumanizing people. It was a way to limit Southern power. That it was actually a good thing. It was going to limit Southern power so they could get rid of slavery.
And it was limiting Southern power by devaluing the life of Black people, because you got to continue the thought.
Yeah,
right?
but
that's the part that I'm worried about, is that clip circulates, and then around a certain amount of people that begins to metastasize, and then before you know it, just like we spent a lot of time under Trump debating well understood facts, then we get to a point to where we begin to debate, well, was slavery really that bad? Was it really? That's the part. That's what I fear.
But I think that those conversations and those types of things always have happened, and there's not a way to stop certain things, but you got to just be a Jew about it. There's not a better thing, right? Like, you're not going to forget the Holocaust, but there are a lot of people still in America who don't believe that it's real. Mm-hmm. Right? It's the same, and I'm not saying they're the same people who don't believe we went to the moon, but there's a group of people who we didn't go to the moon. It's like, there was no Holocaust. Like, this is just something that people created to say blah, 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 blah. Or, they didn't like the Jews. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't as bad as you thought. There weren't mass graves. Like, there weren't, gas chambers. So there's always going to be that thing. So when I say be a Jew about it, I mean, they will not let you forget, right? So every couple of years, here's the new Holocaust thing that's out. Here's the new thing here's this remembrance, here's this piece. And I think that's the same thing. You don't want to have to be you don't want to feel like, as the person who's disadvantaged, that you have to constantly remind people that this was a true thing and that this actually happened, and let's not repeat this history. But you do, which is why you have, I think, the fear that you have and you see that's going on. I think that's why you're seeing these things that are happening in Hollywood and different places, where people who are having this voice are saying, oh, no, we're not going to let you forget. So I'm going to take something as mainstream as The Watchmen and teach you how terrible some of this history was, and weave in these facts, right? I'm going to take books like Lovecraft and make them into a TV show that you get to see some of these things that happen. So I don't think it's something that you're going to say, oh, we're not going to ever have to do this, because the people who write history are the people who win.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's not that many people who have that many bad things to say about the British, right? It's very superficial. Like, when people speak poorly about the British, it's usually pretty superficial, right? Overall, it's like, oh, but it's the Queen.
Despite the fact
it's
that
the Queen. It's the Queen. But they literally colonized almost the entire world. So you don't
butchered,
just
slaughtered millions.
Colonizing by walking in and saying, hi, do you want some apples? Because they didn't have too much to offer fresh
you
out
want
of
some of these smallpox blankets.
I thought about that the other day when I was hearing all these different debates about trying to recast slavery, and I was like, you never hear the British trying to recast their role in India. Like, it's established. Like, Gandhi is an icon in the world because he was standing up against the United Kingdom.
You don't think you don't think they teach that shit different?
No,
in England?
I'm sure they do, but I'm saying
that's I think that's Amanda's point. Like, the way they teach that history is different in England.
Of course, yes, but you don't hear anyone in England now, currently, standing up in Parliament saying, "Yo, look, we have to change the way we're teaching people. They're knowing too much about our colonial past, and we need to reshape it and rebrand
but
it."
I don't think
that's like a unique
dogging
American thing, I think.
No, because I don't think so. I don't think that anyone's dogging them the way that they dog America. I think what's unique is when you go to South Africa and how open they are about the racism and embedded racism and things that happened in South Africa. That is what's the unique piece.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. But what I'm saying is in Great Britain, no one is standing up in Parliament like debating anything, because you don't have a bunch of people going around talking about the terrible colonialism and all of the horrible things that the British did. Most of these people still belong to the Commonwealth. They're all independent countries that still belong to the Commonwealth because they actually aren't allowed to get out. So they're still under British rule. So they're still not speaking poorly about Great Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Not to the level that people talk about and the evils that came from Americanized slavery. Like Western slavery was
this goes to something that Boris Sanchez said when he was on the show, and it was something I had never thought about until he said it, is that America is unique in the sense that we're the Black people in America are one of the few minorities who actually put forth a movement that was successful. And if you look at all of those colonized countries, like what Amanda was saying, a lot of it, like in Jamaica, for example, Jamaican independence, there was no civil rights movement in Jamaica or in a lot of the places that were under colonial control. That's something that's unique to America. So our perspective when we look out into the world and we see oppression is to say, well, why these people didn't stand up the way that we did? So we put a light on the ills of America, I think personally, a lot more than other people do for their oppressors. I don't see much. You see the movies. I watched several movies about colonialism in India, right? We know the story of Gandhi, but there isn't anybody who shook off oppression in the way that we did. And when Boris Sanchez said that, we were talking about Cuba at the time and people of color in Cuba and in the Latin American countries, and how it never really, there wasn't a movement that said, hey, look, you got to stop it. It kind of just.
I think you're wrong there.
No, I think you're wrong because I mean,
you're
talking to Alf, right? We're gonna pause. We're gonna talk about, you're talking to Alf, and he opened up speaking Creole.
I mean,
and you gonna say nobody has fought off the way America has, and I'm like,
what I'm talking about when Boris Sanchez was on the show. We're not saying that no one fought off. We're saying there was no. Let me put it this way: not fighting for independence. That's the Haitian Islands history. Y'all got that. What I'm talking about is a civil rights movement in the same way that we had a civil rights movement.
Christian, I mean, the thing is
still not quite the same.
It happens all over the world, but
you think South Africa civil rights movement is different than what happened in the U.S.?
Absolutely, for the same reason that you just because the entire context of it was different. Apartheid was not a very different system. They went about it in a whole different way. And
apartheid was built off of a combination of U.S. slavery.
I understand that, and even if I give you apartheid, which is fine, we ain't got to debate apartheid. You still got two examples in the entire history of the world. There's nobody else who shook off oppression in the way that America did, that Black people in America did, in the modern time.
I think first of all, the idea that Blacks in America have shaken off oppression is part of the lie they tell us.
It's not complete.
That's
not what I'm saying.
What might be unique to America is the fact that when we talk about all these, we talk about Haiti, we talk about South Africa. We're talking about the oppressed majority taking the power back from the oppressing minority. In America, Blacks are still the minority. Blacks are still being oppressed. It's a different kind of oppression. They just keep changing and moving the goalposts of oppression, and they give small victories. But there's been no shaking off of oppression.
I didn't mean to imply that it was done, and that's why I said it's different from apartheid. Like the whole context of apartheid is different because of that you said, what you just said. And even in South Africa now, it's still one of the most segregated countries in the world. Like the legacy of apartheid is still alive the same way as it is, the legacy of Jim Crow and slavery is alive here. What I'm saying is, even though the fight of it is not done, there aren't many examples of people who stood up against racism in that way. And when Boris Sanchez brought it up, he was talking about, because we were talking about, if you remember, how come when we see Afro-Caribbean people, or why is it that they don't seem to, why is there so much racism? Remember we were talking about that, like the racism that's in Cuba? And he was saying the reason why that racism still exists is because it was never in any real meaningful way dealt with. It kind of just phased into modern life. We tried to arrest it. We're not complete with it. But my point for bringing all of that up is, I think that is why there's this effort to go back and recast slavery. because it's something that can't be defended. And so instead of trying to defend it, which is a losing argument, you just try to go back and whitewash it.
Reframe.
Right, but so I'm gonna just take a step back. I think you went down a really long rabbit hole for no really good reason. I'm just gonna be real. Because none of that has anything. I don't think any. But what I'm saying is, I don't think
every
anything
time I was saying something, y'all kept jumping.
No,
in
but what
and
I'm saying is
taking it
because
another
what
way.
you're
So you
saying is
no sense.
none of that has anything to do with them recasting slavery.
Yes, it does.
So the whole purpose of recasting it is, what is the view of America in the world? What is the view? And now I'm here, America's the champion, right? It's the same way that they recasted what they've done to the Native Americans.
Yeah,
we don't ever really learn about that. No, what I'm saying
we watched Pocahontas in school,
but there wasn't a whole movement that the Native Americans did, similar to what African Americans did, to allow this. No, for them to want to recast it. Well, so I'm saying they didn't have a movement to want to recast how they treated Native Americans. They wanted to recast how they treated Native Americans because I don't want people to look at me poorly no matter what I do.
But
so it doesn't matter.
My point, because if you go to reservations now, because there was no movement, and because now we have kind of taken Native peoples into our movement, you see that since the era of Wild West, or whatever time period you want to say, Native Americans have never had anything. They didn't have to recast it because there was no push that says you have to recognize me.
I think this comment from Evan 1177 is accurate and kind of gets I think what both of y'all are kind of talking about. The education system in America was never originally about teaching students about the accurate history of the world. It was to make kids loyal to their country, teach them about how great America is, make America great again. It's changed now, but when you get a late start, have to expect that we'd be behind the rest of the world. And honestly, I think that is where the recasting of slavery comes in, because you have to, if you start teaching people about the blood on the hands of the founders, now you start taking away the credibility of the Constitution and the foundation of this entire country. Because what do they do now? Anytime you want to change the law, they say that's not what the Constitution says. And half the time I'll be like, fuck the Constitution and the niggas who wrote it.
Clarence Thomas is the master of that.
It's Constitution. We uphold the Constitution. Uphold the Constitution. There's a Bill of Rights, and there's amendments for a reason. But when's the last time we instituted a new amendment? When's the last time we given people an additional freedom? That's why they don't want the Voting Rights Act. They don't want DC to become a state, because that's not what the Constitution said. The Constitution didn't say Alaska was a fucking state, but it doesn't matter. They said DC is not a state. So they are trying to. They don't want people questioning the foundation of this country, because once you do, you start questioning everything, the entire fabric of what this country is about. You start questioning the system of racism. You start questioning the system of basically the caste system that we have in this country, that nobody wants to call a caste system. It is a caste system. The haves and the have-nots are more important in this country sometimes than even race is. So once you start questioning those things, and once you start revealing the ugly history of America, we are indoctrinated as youth, and we are brainwashed. Pledge of Allegiance. We are taught over and over, the greatest country in the world. You start teaching kids at an early age that this country is not as great as they think it is. You start raising a country of progressives, and now the conservatives have lost their entire base.
I want to take a step back. I don't think it's just a matter of raising a world of progressives, and I think this is where I was saying that I differ from you, Chris. Is that concept of loyalty is not specific to the US. That is what every country does. That's why every country has a pledge. Every country has a song. Every country, every place you go, you want to be viewed as the good guy. And so that's why whoever wins, whoever's in power, rewrites that history. So that's not unique to the US or us or any of that piece. So that piece that the US is doing is historical. That's what every country has always done.
Because you're not wrong with that. You're not wrong. However, we are the youngest. If any of these other countries that we want to possibly compare ourselves to, they got centuries of history that's happened, been rewritten. Winners have changed it. They got a whole long ass track record.
I think
we got 300. We got 1776 to right now. And in that time period, slavery was still a big ass chunk of it. So I think the difference of it is that, and then you can see it when you hear Republican talking points about this new thing with the woke businesses and woke corporation and woke culture, which is essentially what you're saying, Alf. Which is what they see when they look out, is that there are people who are quote unquote woke to the histories of the country. That scares them. Hence, in response, in addition to all the voter suppression and all that, we got to go back and try to rewrite this history.
Right. I think we're way off of where we started, but I think that
I don't know where we are.
I think you're in a very bubble-dized view because we live in America. I think that the concern is in the why some people feel like they need to constantly rewrite history so everyone has this strong national pride. They have a fear that if people see you for your truth, then they will turn against you. And I don't think that this is, wait, hold on. I don't think, but hold on. No. You didn't let me finish. I don't think that we're unique in this piece because you have these civil unrest happening across the entire world all over. So you have issues happening in Hong Kong, you have issues happening in China, you have the issues happening. And when you say the youngest, South African apartheid was way after us. They're only 25 years out. So what's happening is this influx of knowledge and information that's going out. So this indoctrination that all countries were doing is changing. So that's where I'm differing from you. I don't think that this is unique to our space. I don't think that we're even the youngest and freshest. I think that this is closest to us because we are Black people in America.
I mean, it's the same thing.
We're not debating what the context of it. We're just debating whether everybody else is doing it.
It's the same way.
I'm saying everybody's in it.
We chastise other countries. We chastise North Korea and Russia and China for the same kind of indoctrination that we do here.
Correct. I'm just saying we're in the same mix. So I'm agreeing that the country is doing it. I just think there's nothing new in America that's not happening anywhere else in the world today. And that's due to free information online. One
thing that Amanda brought up earlier when she was talking about don't let them forget. So sometimes what we have to do, and we were talking about a lot of the art that's coming out now. Mm-hmm. Like, and I talk, like sometimes me and my girl try to watch something with like, is there anything
it's too much? It's traumatic, right?
Like, is there anything that's not based on Black trauma that I can watch? No. Like, I would like to laugh today. It's like, when they see us.
Not in 2020.
Like
them.
Yeah, I haven't even started them. I heard
everything is Black trauma. And it's like, but one thing I say, I don't want them to stop making these things because and I've said this on the show before, these movies aren't for us. It's for them. Mm-hmm. Like we need to keep pumping this into their brains. And that's why these movements, you can never, the worst thing that happened to Black Americans and Black people in America is when they told us we won the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? They basically said, "Hey, you guys did it." They passed the civil rights bill. Everyone's like,
Alf wants to go back to segregation.
I'm like,
what do you say right now?
Let me fight. We be fighting. But people took their signs and went home. And the 80s and the 80s and that decade of affluence and people just you talk about all the time, this idea that anybody could be a millionaire if you just play your cards right. They sucked all the power out of the movement. And that's why you had decades they were just basically, we stopped.
That's what my mom talks about all the time is that 80s period and how revolutionaries went from revolutionaries to yuppies, basically.
Yeah, hippies became yuppies.
Yeah, and then it was like, here's a chance now. I had my age and my time of revolution.
But that's why
in my 40s. Now it's time to put this family together.
Yes, these movies about Black trauma, like I'm tired of them, but they need to keep doing them, keep making them, keep reminding motherfuckers shit ain't sweet.
But I'm with them here. We do need a balance. You got to remind people that. I think people, it's like anything else, like when you see it, it becomes something that is normalized, and also normalizing the president as a Black person. And I think normalizing everyday life where people are all different shades, all different races, normalizes it and makes it not just okay for people of color who are being left out of it, makes it okay for everybody else. I think society paints this picture that, Black people need to see other Black people in these roles to have faith and see it. And Spanish people need to see other Spanish people, but it's not just Black people need to see it or Spanish people need to see it. The white people also need to see it because it also then ingrains in their brain that it's a possibility.
Representation just like matters not just to those being represented.
100%.
Right.
To show that, you know, the neighborhood you live in, if a Black person lives in that neighborhood, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, so when you do have these shows where they do, like you said, there has to be a balance. I would like to see, more Cosby shows with affluent Black people. Like I watch Keenan. I support my man Keenan. The show's terrible, but I watch it anyway. You know what I'm saying? You that's an affluent Black man with raising a family. And he has a white father-in-law. Like it is what America looks like. You know what I mean? Blackish and all these shows.
Black AF. I like Black AF.
I love that shit. It was great.
A lot of people didn't like it, but it was for me.
Listen,
I was like,
people
I'm in your niche.
But there has to be, there has to be a little bit of everything. But I do also say, but don't let's not only because what happened. Bill Cosby started running around calling people coons and shit, and forgot where the fuck he came from. So every once in a while, somebody need to smack you back down with this, when they see us. And don't forget, this wasn't that long ago,
right?
These niggas out here 35 and shit. Like, hey, you know what I mean?
So can I pull a Parrish? And I mean, we've been on this topic a long time.
Yeah,
can we end on a happier note? Okay.
Chris, I mean, I don't know where Chris was going.
Chris just gets so extra. Nah, he was trying to make points that wasn't.
No.
You know why? Because your basis of your point kept being wrong. The base level of your points.
I had worked it out in my brain. It was a 45-second thing I was saying, but
it was wrong.
Wait, it was not wrong at all.
It actually was.
It was
you can't try to go something and then all the prefaces that go up to it, like preface point 1 and 2, are not.
There was an outline, and he had one, and then A, B.
I said all you really said was, "Oh, it happens in other places in the world."
Right. That's what I'm saying. Your preface points, your 1s and 2. Your lead up to it was you should have done it.
But let's get to the next topic. And Amanda, you're gonna lead this one because you brought this to our attention, and it's kind of fucking hilarious.
I only brought it to y'all attention because last time I was on, Chris said he didn't want to be known as the old people podcast who didn't know when new things were happening.
True.
That do be happening sometimes.
But this was a story that I had not heard. So go ahead and give us the. Yeah.
Oh man, so I now I'm not here to give everybody's name and their business because I'm really bad at that. But the basis of the story is Drake, I'll Steal Your Woman, who's up there with Trey Songz in that I'll Steal Your Woman crew, was working with a singer and wanted her on one of his new songs for his new album. And so he flew her out, and in flying her out, she has a fiance. They had been together for 8 years. I don't know how long they were engaged, but said, yeah, bring him too. You know what I'm saying? If I'm paying for a private jet, I'ma just pay.
But he says he's her manager and he was the producer. When I read it, it sounded like he was saying he got flowed out.
No.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I thought Drake wanted to work with him.
No, Drake wanted to work with her. She was gonna put her vocals on this song and then flew them both out to work on this song. So he came as well. And then during that time, he says he believes that his girlfriend cheated on him with Drake.
Does he even know for sure? He just believes that?
I think while they were doing some of the recordings, there were some pictures that were posted of them together. Like Drake posted pictures of them together. So he's like, my girl cheated on me. She ain't come out and say I slept with Drake, and Drake ain't say it. So maybe he just feel like he could be insecure.
His name is Sun something.
Jamie Sun, S-U-N. Like the sun.
See, we are the old people podcast. Some nigga named Sun. Sun announced his split from Sharon on April 21st. He told his followers, he sounded like some simping at. Look, imagine having the most beautiful, supportive, and faithful relationship 8 years long. It obviously wasn't that good.
It's so long.
8 years long with an engagement and wedding plan. A beautiful woman on your side as ride or die. Then. Oh, he spelled that wrong. Then this major opportunity comes and a world star calls your fiance to sign a record deal. flies you both over, and then out of nowhere, all the trust has vanished with knives in your back and in your heart. Imagine. Damn, you nigga down bad, bro.
Down bad.
Right. So RJ,
listen. You will never get me to post about that shit.
They were engaged for 8 years. I think that they were together for 8 years, and during that time, they got engaged. Because I had to read it a couple of times myself.
8 years long relationship, but they were engaged at the time.
At the time, they were engaged. Now, go ahead, Chris.
So, because here's a part that I'm a little like, I'm like, okay, if I'm putting myself in Mr. Sun's shoes.
First of all, I ain't doing no interview. Shit.
Yeah, not at all. But where were you, sir? Like, if you flew over there with her, you're a producer also. You sent your woman into a room, a dark studio room with Drake. Where were you, dog? Was he shopping or chilling at the hotel?
Hence why he was just a ride along. Hello, that should tell you that in and of itself.
He was at the resort.
He wasn't the one who was chosen to be flued out. He was, you can bring a +1.
Let me show you a lesson that R. Kelly taught me. And I don't have many lessons I learned from R. Kelly.
Please be careful, Chris.
So here's one that
hit the dump button.
Here's all I think we all can learn from. Don't bring your girl in the club around me. Didn't R. Kelly say that? Don't bring your girl to the club. I forget the melody of it.
I mean, Biggie said, "Don't bring your girl around me." True player for real.
Yeah, but R. Kelly made a whole song about it that was a little more direct. That was like, "Hey, look, don't bring your girl to the club, dog." And so that always kind of resonated with me. Like,
but let's take a step back. He didn't bring his girl to the club. His girl got a ticket with a +1. He was the +1, so he's like, "I'm gonna go."
You said you had an interesting take on this.
So here's my thought. Right. And it came to me later on after I was reading all the comments and I was laughing and I was having a good old time. But let's say we took this out of the music industry just for 30 seconds. And this was a regular job. So this woman got hired. She went in and her boss has now said, I need you to do these things. You might need to shake a little something. You want to be on this song, right? Like you want this promotion. You want this gig. You want this paycheck. Shake a little something.
Do we know that Drake gave her that ultimatum? Like,
no, what I'm saying is even if Drake didn't say these things, it's the perception of if this was corporate America and someone slept with their boss, your boss doesn't have to tell you, you have to sleep with me to get this promotion or you have to sleep with me to get this job.
It's just kind of
they're a person of power. And so that implication of they're asking you to do something or if they make a move on you, then in that person's mind, they may feel like they don't have a choice. Like my only option is this. If I don't do this, they're going to not give me my job. And that's how it would work in the corporate world. They don't have to say do this or else. If they imply they want to sleep with you, you feel like that's sexual harassment. And if they ask you to do something, again, it's sexual harassment. And if this was Hollywood right now, and he was a Hollywood exec, then it would be all over. It wouldn't be like this lady slept with this man. It was like this actress just slept with the producer. Thank you. So it's the fact that it's music and it's the fact that it's hip hop music that has now taken that away. Because if this was almost any other scene and it wasn't a black man and woman in hip hop, this would be a whole different conversation that people would be having. Now, I'm not even saying Drake said something. She could have been the one to come on to him. They could have completely not slept together at all. But the implication of someone sleeping with their boss to get something, or an actress sleeping with a producer to get a role,
greatly frowned upon.
Or a singer, sleeping with the artist to get on the album.
But speaking of the hip hop history of it, I think people have said that that's how Lil Kim got on. That rumor has floated with Foxy Brown and Jay-Z.
But those are all things that we're still just coming off this Me Too movement, right? It was like these people may have felt like they had to do it in order to get in.
Yeah, I feel you.
So now COVID's over. And I hate to say COVID's over, but it's one of those things. It's like people are not in their house, so we're not stuck. And so with COVID kind of came this big bubble of consciousness, right? Everyone's stuck in and we all want to be uber conscious and we all want to be on top of these things and we're looking at all this stuff. But now it's like, oh, Well, who wouldn't have wanted to sleep with Drake anyway? He got all that money.
Yeah.
You with Jamie's son. Who was Jamie's son? I ain't never heard about him. So of course she just slept with Drake. Not because she felt she had to, not because she was pressured, not because of any of these things, because all the women reading it are like, oh, well, Drake's on my pass list, and my husband already knows. My boyfriend knows. If he came, it would have been over. And enough dudes are like, well, why would you? Why? Of course she wanted to sleep up and then pull the Kevin Samuels.
Now, in the Me Too movement, we had a lot of women speaking up. Does it matter or change it? Do you think it would make a difference if we actually heard from this young woman and she said, "Hey, look, this is my side of it." Does it kind of make it? Do we dismiss it because it's Jamie's son saying it, and it doesn't?
We know, yes, because the way. Yeah, because the way that it comes out
that's why I think that's why it's being dismissed. I think it's being dismissed because I threw this out here as like this Instagram story of, oh, by the way, my girlfriend cheated on me, which many people cheat on other people all the time, and she cheated on me with Drake, and so that was her choice. She did this thing. I was the scorned person.
But if you're
right in any of the Me Too movement, there might have been there could have been 100 of boyfriends, husbands, and all these people who are on the other side, and we're like left their person if they found out they slept with the person, like slept with a producer or their boss or whoever, right? Indecent Proposal, they ain't stay together.
Didn't they get back together at the end?
I don't know. I never really watched it.
Yeah, I think
the concept of it is ridiculous.
But what you're saying, I think where it got lost is the simping of the announcement from Son, whatever, Jamie. And like, it makes it funny the way he came out, like, because he sounds like a cuck. Like he doesn't sound like,
I know.
He doesn't sound like a sympathetic figure. But like if she came out and said, I slept with Drake because he said if I felt like if I didn't, he wouldn't have put me on the album. Whole different story,
right?
But
if she ever said that, right? But whoever wants to say that, I've never heard any of these female artists that came in this R&B hip hop space saying that they felt pressured or they felt like if they didn't do something. I feel like that's still an area that has been pretty. That movement has still kind of been pretty taboo in.
I guess because the misogyny of hip hop just doesn't allow for her to come out, because everyone's gonna, first of all, they're gonna be like, oh, come, whatever. You wanted to fuck Drake. Come on.
Exactly.
And then the other thing is every man is also like, man, if that was my girl, I hope she would have said no. You know what I mean? Like,
or there's a lot of dudes that I've seen. I was like, I mean, bro, you knew it was gonna happen. Like, you should have just not asked no questions. You should have just asked no questions. Why'd you even get? Or no, not he did you a favor. Why'd you get on a plane? You knew it was going to happen, because there's enough dudes that have cheated on their girls and they cheat down. So and when I say cheat down, you have a whole girlfriend and you're cheating with your secretary.
Yeah.
What? You're cheating with.
Well, okay, I'm gonna ask you, Chris. If that was you and your woman, you before you got married, you're engaged. Like I'm engaged right now. Before you got married, Drake. And let's not even say Drake. Let's put it in our world, because you know what I'm saying, like. Her boss, or let's not even say boss.
No, you should go with Drake, because I don't think that Jamie's son ever gave his girl a hall pass with Drake, thinking Drake.
Okay, let's say Drake.
I'll give you the scenario, because this is a real thing. When we first got back from school, Cafe Iguana. If you were dating anyone in that era between like 2003, 2010, and you went into Cafe Iguana on certain nights, and them Miami Dolphin football players was in there, there was always a possibility,
your girl
always a slight possibility that she might get pickpocketed from you. So go ahead with your hypothetical.
Well, I'm saying if it's your girl and you go and Drake says, and she sleeps with Drake, and you back at the hotel room, she comes back from a session with Drake and she's like, baby, I just fucked Drake. Is it a wrap, or are you gonna be like, well, shit, chalk it up to the game, I guess? You know what I'm saying?
I think it kind of got it might have. Well, it'll be a wrap, but you know how raps go when you in relationships.
When you in love,
it might be a pause.
Yeah, it might be a wrap. It sometimes it's a little difficult. You know what I'm saying? But in that situation, my first instinct off the rip, my mind was like, hell no, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Yeah,
but now you know when you can't pause and go back. When you do a fucking interview,
yeah.
when you make an announcement about this shit
on Instagram, and now everyone is following you and knows exactly who you're talking about.
Official rap, whether she did anything with Drake or not. Now it's an official rap.
Now you can't go back.
No,
you're gonna look like a super suckerish.
And I don't think there's anything that she can say. This is something that she has to just let die down on that piece, because if she feeds into it either one way or the other, then it's like, oh, the only reason you have a career is because of this. And she clearly is someone who was already trying to make a career for themselves. And so you, in the world of singing and entertainment, people are going to view it like you cheated. So they're not going to back it.
Have you all ever heard of Georgia Jones? She's like a singer, R&B type woman. Drake raps about her about 2 albums ago, and he says, basically the whole song he's rapping about is like how
someone said Georgia Smith. Is it Georgia Jones?
Georgia Smith. That might be her name, Georgia Smith.
Thank you. I mean, it's like right there.
That's exactly the same thing. Same type situation. It sounds like. Calls her over. She's a young singer, and she told him straight up. And he says it in the song. He's like, "You said you wanted to make it on your own, or you ain't need me." It's one of his little crying songs, And so she goes on about her business. She's like, "No, I'm gonna get it my own way." Right or wrong, y'all don't know who Georgia Smith is. And the only reason why I know who she is, and probably the only reason why this commenter knows who she is because we know that story because Drake.
But how many girls have slept with Drake and still ain't famous? So it's
true.
Like it's that ain't your key to fame either. You know what I mean? So it's Georgia Smith is not famous because she didn't sleep with Drake.
She's a very good singer too, by the way. She's solid.
So yeah, but that was my different take. It hit me later because I had a lot of jokes initially. I was like, "This is hilarious." And I was like, "You know what?
That's a good point."
This is strange because if this was anywhere else and any other industry where there was like this rumor of someone was about to get this job and slept with the boss, then it would be like a wrap. And I think that there would be a few people that frowned upon her because there always are, no matter what. People feel that pressure is, but I think that there would be a lot of people who would frown upon him for trying to use his power in that way. But that's a interesting place that a lot of people are in because there's a lot of dudes that end up married to someone who used to be their assistant or their secretary or work underneath them, and vice versa, women who are married to men who worked underneath them. Whenever you have that piece, it can happen.
That's a valid point, though, because I didn't think about that until you said it. And I didn't think about it because it is rap, and I didn't think about it because of what Alphonse said. It's kind of like
that dude looked like a schmuck.
That's the roll of the dice. You know what I'm saying? You sent your girl to Drake. You know what I mean? Like, good luck.
What you think was going to happen?
This poor nigga was back at the hotel room just like, we about to get put on. No.
That boy was
getting put on
websites. That boy was on the phone with his friends, ordering PlayStation 5s, trying to set it off.
We about to blow up.
You bet. I hope he ordered a lot of lobster. You better use up all that room service you got. Act like the people. What did they say? Them girls who be flew out to Dubai.
You know what would be terrible though? What if you do all that room service and all that, and then Drake like cancels the card? You know what I mean?
No. What would be the worst is if Drake like he's at the studio because he's a producer and he wants to be involved and like, yeah, I just want to learn a little bit from the master.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
Hey, could you run by Subway right quick?
And Drake gives him a little billfold, like, go ahead and go buy you something nice.